Yes.
Hello.
Hello, hello, my good dear friend. How are you?
I am great. I was looking forward for this moment.
Oh,
Very
so
happy.
have I.
Awesome. Very happy to see you. And very
I
happy to have this conversation.
yes. Likewise. I mean, this is. I'm so glad that you decided to do this, and thank you for having me. And I'm looking forward to our conscious communication. The power of our conscious communication. What a powerful title. That
Yes,
within
I'm gonna thank
itself.
the divine inspiration for that.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, that's how we roll. We have conversations during Mercury retrograde when people don't understand each other, just to have the practice of it and
I believe it's
distill
very
that. Yeah.
Yeah, I believe that's important, and it's important to have not just communication but understanding what we are communicating about, and I think that's also is very important as well.
Totally. Which leads me to ask you, what is conscious communication for you?
Um, there are two words within that sentence: conscious communication. If we try to dissect those two, what is conscious? Conscious meaning you're alive, and we have different level of consciousness. And um, as I'm working on my level of consciousness, and I'm finding that I am more aware of the things that are happening unconsciously, if you will, and I'm just in awe and seeing. Now, being conscious is to look, inward, knowing who you are, um, look in inside of you, and a lot of times we attach what we do to who we are. Now, what I do is not who I am, right? So I believe being, conscious is to be aware of what's going on. First of all, to be aware of who you are and to be aware of what's going on. Now that we know what it is to be conscious, now our communication, everything that we do thereafter will be conscious because of the fact that we know who we are. So having a conscious communications is really open up the uh, the door of looking not only inward but also looking outside. So you have to understand that we're all interconnected, and by having a conscious communications, it's really about community, and you talk about that a lot. To me, conscious communication is something that we should practice, although we don't do it enough. And let's start tonight having this conscious communication. And I'm so glad that we are able to do that. And hopefully, in the coming weeks, months, years to come, we have more people that are more
Yeah.
conscious, having more conscious communication.
Amen to that. Because we certainly need it, right?
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, they're so important in our community these days. And we can read and we can hear how people are not all the time listening to each other.
Right?
Um, and how they're actually hearing. You were talking about communication, but about understanding. Understanding is a part of communication, is also being in touch with the space where we are in when we communicate. So, with the
Right?
inner voice or the inner noise, actually, that is happening even before we get into a conversation. And then to be aware of the perception that we have, because ever so often it happens that somebody says something and we're hearing completely something else because we're filtering it through and interpreting it, and we are hearing but we're not listening really to the message. So paraphrasing, taking what the other said and just rechecking it, verifying, taking a breath without jumping into reactivity. All these things, if we think about it, we haven't been taught actually. Well, personally, I haven't been taught in school, and In our family systems, we're actually often being taught the opposite: is how not to listen and fight and um, judge and other behaviors that don't facilitate understanding and communication.
Absolutely. And to continue on that segment of what you just said, I believe too often, in myself included, we listen to respond, but we don't listen to understand. So, in
Hmm.
other words, you're talking, I just can't wait to just respond to you. And so at that point, we stop listening because there's a dialogue that's going on in our mind. So the minute that we don't take the time to listen to the person, we kind of lose the essence of that
Yeah.
communication. You ever wonder, sometimes you're talking to someone and the way they respond to you, like, okay, you clearly were not listening to me. And to me, that is the highest form of lack of interest, or lack of a better word, respect, because I believe that the most precious thing that we have is our time. If someone take the time to speak to us, I believe that the least we could do is to really take the time to actually do active listening. Now, listening to someone doesn't mean you have to respond. You could, but I find sometimes just listening by the person talking, the person we actually will hear themselves and be like, oh, okay, oh, this is what it is. So I think it's very important that, there's this less and less communication going on in our world today, and this is the
Hmm.
reason why a lot of things that are happening is either a lack of communication or miscommunication. That also, sometimes
Yeah.
people say, well, we communicate, but
Yeah.
how are we
Like they
communicating?
talk. They mean they're talking.
Yeah, are we talking or are we communicating? Because in communion, community,
Yeah.
so it's fascinating, and I we couldn't have this segment tonight in a better time, because I think this is everything is happening right here right now, was was in the was in the making for a very long time. It just not coming to fruition. So i'm
Yeah, that's
just
true.
i'm just really glad that we having this communication, this conversation tonight.
Yeah, it was in a making. We did have so many beautiful conscious communications previously, and we did speak about our community and how we see that we're certainly in lack of more active listening and more communicating with intention and with a level of consciousness that is more elevated than certain levels of consciousness that are expressing themselves. Um, Yeah, it's if we think about it, what is unconscious communication actually? It's what's coming to me. We've all experienced the unconscious communication or just communication without attention.
Ah, wow, wow! You said it. You said it. You can't say it. I can't say any better than that. It's conscious without attention, and where there's no attention, then we're pretty much going around in a circle. Attention is so something that is very important. It's like getting in your car and driving without a destination. I think that's what it is, having an unconscious communication or having a communication with no attention. So it's really, we actually just making noise, if you will. We're making noise because there is no point of our conversation. There is
Right.
no um, end game on our conversation. We are conversating just for the sake of conversating, but
Mhm.
really never get to a point of what we're trying to accomplish. And this is one of the reasons
Yeah.
why I have made it a conscious effort that whatever I do, there's attention to it. There's attention to everything I do. Even if I'm not doing anything, there's attention to me not doing anything, because I think it's very important that we take the time to be rather than the time to do. So
Yeah,
absolutely,
definitely. Amalia, hello. Let's read what you have to share with us. Very nice set and very funny. I was listening today something by Thich Nhat Hanh. Oh, isn't he wonderful? Deep listening is the kind of listening that can help relieve the suffering of another person. I think I remembered, like, I just remember that video. You can call it compassionate listening. You listen with only the purpose to, we're going to get to the other part, to help him or her to empty his heart.
Wow.
It's amazing. That is beautiful.
Wow.
Actually, Amalia, if you can find that video and post it in comments, that would be awesome. I'd love to listen to it again, and maybe somebody else will love to hear that. Actually, you've named it, Will. You know, it's the intention. People don't have a clear intention when they go into a conversation. They go with maybe sometimes the intention to just be right and get their points across, like in kind of like just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's what, not being ready or open to be challenged or change their points of view. They're just going, and you can definitely hear that if they
Mm.
have such an intention. But for example, in any conversation that I have, my intention, my base, my fundamental intention is to connect heart to heart
Wow.
and to allow the other one to feel seen and heard, and to expand more on both of our consciousness levels by the end of the conversation, throughout and by the end of the conversation, no matter what we're discussing about. So my primary intention is always the connection, regardless of the information that is shared, because there are several levels of communication, right?
Right.
So there's the intellectual, mental level, there's the energetical, and then there's the emotional. So for me, regardless of the points that I'm going to get across in an intellectual fairness or, sense of correctness, if you haven't felt heard, listened, and respected and cared for within our conversation, my objective, my primary objective, has not been reached.
Hmm. Wow. Wow. I totally agree with you. But there's another kind of conversation that I like is the nonverbal. Me, I'm very in the nonverbal. This is one of the reasons why I like to talk to people face to face or visual, not just on the phone. Is because I like to see the nonverbal. I mean, as you probably know or aware of, 90% of a conversation, the conversation that we have, 90% is nonverbal. It's about the gesture, the body language, if you will. And to me, that's the first thing I go first. I look, because if I notice the nonverbal, it will determine whether I have a connection with you or not. I don't know if you agree with me, but this is a way of me determining whether I should continue that conversation,
Mm,
whether I should be, cutting that conversation short,
mm,
or also change the subject. However, people seem nowadays to have really conversation that are not purposeful. Me, I am making an effort each and every day to have a purposeful conversation, even if with my children. Purposeful conversation, I think it activate the brain to go search for solution, to go search for the answer. Now, it's one thing to search for the answer for the solution, but it's quite another to actually face it and do something with it. So for me, primarily when I'm having a conversation, just like we're having now, to me, the body language
mm,
is very important. And then once I'm connected with the body language, once I know there's truth to the conversation that we're having, and you being authentic, now I open up my horizon even more and go a little bit
mm,
deeper with the mental, spiritual, and all that kind of things of connection. But for me, I'll stop if I see that there is no, the body language is not, what you're saying is not incongruent to with what you're saying versus
mm.
what your body is reflecting. It's kind of hard for me to go a little bit deeper. I
I
like to get your
understand.
take on that.
Yeah, I totally get that. It's interesting how you get your cues through nonverbal, which it's one of the ways of communicating, of course. In my case, my cues are energetical. They're through my senses, my inner sense. So let's say I can feel an inner sense of, let's say, anxiety, or which is going to translate through a nonverbal jitterness or like maybe a lack of attention.
Hmm.
But in this case, either way, if I do see nonverbal or I feel that there's maybe a lack of presence, which is expressed in agitation or it's just expressed in the person looking somewhere else or just not fully being here and now, I check in. And there are ways to check in too. Well, straight from coaching, you can actually express to them, on one hand, I'm hearing that you really wanted to have this conversation, but on the other hand, I feel, you're like expressing it and you're also expressing it visually to them. On the other
Right.
hand, I feel like you're a bit agitated, and is this the right time for you, or do you have maybe something in mind? Because sometimes it really could be that it's not the best time for the person, or right before you enter the meeting, something happened, a phone call they had. There's always an explanation, or it can actually just happen that they have an overall anxiety that is unrelated at all with the meeting, and you give them the opportunity to check in with themselves
Right.
if they haven't done it previously. Most people don't. And so they become aware that it's true, I am feeling a bit anxious, and why don't we, and I do this very often actually in meetings and group or individual duos. Let's take a moment and take a deep breath, and maybe we do a heart harmonization, take a glass of water, if they want to have the conversation now. And if it's not the appropriate time, we're just going to schedule. But most of the time is really a check-in that people need, kind of a reminder to be anchored.
Hmm.
And I was doing that a lot with my teams in the past. So before the beginning of every meeting that we have was just taking a breath, taking 5 minutes, really centering ourselves. Let's say it's a feminine way to approach things, but I just call it a balanced way to go about. And once all your senses are fully activated, the quality of the thoughts, the accuracy, the creative ideas flowing, the connection between everyone is heightened.
Wow.
So that's actually a part of conscious communication leading for me. You lead them into presence and attention, and kind of cultivating this. Let's check in inside what's going on. How's your emotional level? How many thoughts are going through your head? How many worries are speaking in the same time that I'm speaking to you? And then once you're ready, and once I'm ready, and we're connected, we're going to exchange. Because now we're really like, in the same
Right.
space, in the shared
Right.
space.
Right. It's very important um, to have. We could be having the right conversation, but at the wrong time. Um, when I said the wrong time, means that the frame of mind, the mind is not set to receive whatever it is being
Mm.
given. And I do believe in the time is never perfect, but we can make we can take the time. There will never be a perfect time, but we can take the time that we have and perfect it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe in coincidence, so yes, we have to be mindful of that. And whenever we're having a conversation, especially if you want to have, a conscious communication or whatnot, you want to be mindful of the other person because they may not be at the same level, consciously speaking. They may not be in the same level or even a vibrational frequency. So all
Yep.
that take into consideration and is being compassionate for the other person. Yes, we want to talk to that person, but is it the right time? Is the what's being said is going to be well received to make that impact that it was intended for? So absolutely critical. Even even in a relationship, whatever the relationship, whether it's romantic relationship, whether it is a paternal or parental
Mhm.
relationship, whatever it is, whatever type of relationship you have, I think is very important. And that will lead me to the next thing is that it is very important that the people that we decide to have a relationship with, because
Mm.
there's a difference having acquaintance and having a relationship. And that's why my circle has shrank so much in the last, I'll say, 6 to 8 months, because I realized that a lot of conversation that I was having, they were not fruitful conversation. They were not purposeful, and I'm making that conscious effort to make sure that whatever conversation I'm going to have, it's really going to lead to something, to some type of changes, some type of awareness. So, absolutely, well said on what you said. Absolutely, I completely agree.
It's super interesting. There's so many people who have been reviewing their circles and their relationships this year with themselves and with the others. It's certainly been a trying year for our ways to relate and communicate with oneself and one another.
Mm-hmm.
And I've heard so many, I don't think I've heard every person that I had a conversation with has told me that there have been changes and modifications in their inner circles of friends, precisely because they were not feeling resonance
Oh,
into the communication. And it's not about being right or having the same point. It's because they couldn't even find a connection, a compassionate exchange of listening and understanding, so that they can still, talk about different points of view. So yeah.
well, even at the time that we live in now, things are so polarized. Um, this versus that, and I was reading something. I want to share with you. I think it's very fascinating. I don't know if you know Dave Chappelle. I'm sure you
Hmm.
probably heard of him. And I
I
just want
love
to
this
read
as well.
something.
Yeah.
I just want to read something that he said, and I think it was just so appropriate for the conversation that we're having right now. He said, "Our culture has accepted two huge lies. The first is that if you disagree with someone's lifestyle, you must fear or hate them.
Hmm.
The second is that to love someone means you agree with everything they believe, say,
Yeah.
or do. Both are nonsense. You don't have to compromise convictions to be compassionate."
Oh, I love Dave.
Wow, wow,
Yeah.
wow. When I read that, I'm like,
I would love for you to put that in writing, please. After, I just want to read that again and sink it in. I love
absolutely,
that.
absolutely, I
I
will
love that.
definitely do that. I mean, when I read that, and I took the time to really hone in on every word that he was saying. It's like, my
Yeah.
goodness, it is um, so powerful, so in sync with the time that we're living in
Yeah.
today. He couldn't have said it better than that. So I absolutely hats off to him. I've always liked his materials. I've always, have an interest of what he has to say. He's a very compassionate person, and that
Big
just
heart. Yeah.
make me really wants to, glad that I follow him and listen to what he has to say. Absolutely, beautiful, beautifully
Oh
said.
my God. It's super super resonating for these times. He said that this year, right? It's a
Yes,
it's a
yes,
recent quote.
actually, just recently.
Oh my God. I love him. Luigi loves him too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Big hearted man. Big hearted. I can't wait to read that again actually and sink it more in. But he certainly got the what I felt throughout the year, and many people felt throughout the year that we were missing in our conversations. Compassion. You can't be compassionate in conversation and attentive and not be conscious. But you can be unconsciously sharing ideas throughout the conversation without caring for, well, listening and understanding the other. That's, you can certainly do that. And there's been a lot of There's been a lot of hurtful communication this year in our communities and in our families. I do feel it straight in the heart. And sometimes I spend a lot of time actually reading comments on Facebook and other social media without writing anything. It's the way of me understanding more my community and hearing them, reading them, and then hearing them in conversations. And you can so clearly see where they're missing the most important points. Like they're exchanging ideas and beliefs, but they're completely missing seeing each other and connecting and what's most important in our human communities, which is respect, togetherness, compassion, love. And it's part of my daily prayers that our community becomes more elevated into the consciousness, but also deeper in the heart, just deeper in simply loving each other more.
I totally agree. And if if they know, or if I say they, and I'm glad that I know that now, but if people in general knew that we were so connected, the
Mm.
way that we're acting now, we wouldn't be acting this way.
Mm.
Because first of all, we know when we hurt others, we're actually hurting ourselves because we are connected. And one thing that I decided not to say anymore is I can be alone, but I'm never lonely because we are
Mm.
together. Because I am, because we are, I am. We are one part of this whole cosmos, of this whole matter. There's nothing I can do because we are creatures of connection. But the more we think that we're creating connection, the more we are being disconnected
Yeah.
by not taking the time once again to be compassionate. And I'll have to say that I'll have compassion for people who do not have compassion for others because it breaks my heart. And the reason why they do not have compassion for others is because they
Mm.
don't have compassion for themselves. And that is the bigger tragedy. Because
Mm.
however we feel is how we're going to treat other people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I wrote something today that I read, and this is one book that I will highly recommend. I hardly recommend any book what I'm doing any type of live, but it's called The Four Agreements, and I call it for
Mm.
me my four disciplines.
Mm.
Talks about the how to be impeccable with your words, what we say, and now what I'm doing when I'm having an inner dialogue. I picture in my mind that my dialogue is being broadcasted to
Yeah.
TVs
It
and
is
and
in
radio
the
stations.
universe.
Well,
Yeah.
I want people to hear that. Well, I want people to hear what's going on inside of my head. So
Yeah.
because if I won't let people to hear that information, then I won't have that conversation. And because I won't have that conversation with myself, therefore I will not have that conversation with someone else. That's the
Such a
first part of
good,
That's
powerful
the first
image.
part. The second part it says, be impeccable with your words. Let me see, just to make sure that I don't butcher that because it's so important, and I
Yeah.
find it will resonate with a lot
I
of people. And it's
don't take
just
anything
bear with
personal
me.
here. Don Miguel Ruiz. Luigi says he read the
Yes,
Four Agreements many times per year. Actually, is
that's
one
right.
of
And it says, I
my
won't take
go-to
anything.
book.
Yes, you
Great
see, I
Panda.
won't take anything personal.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. Even if someone were to take a gun to shoot me, and I know it's extreme, but what I'm saying is it's not because they don't like me. It's because there's something that's going on deeper inside of themselves.
Yeah.
So when I see someone that's angry, someone that's just overwhelmed, I'm like, oh my gosh, I have so much compassion for you. And I actually feel very sorry because what you're doing, you think you're doing to me, it's the
He's doing
pain.
unto you. Yeah,
It's the
it's a
pain
pain.
that's inside of you, and you feel like the best way to resolve that is to lash out. And actually, it breaks
Yeah.
my heart when I see that. And the third thing is, I won't make any assumption. And
Oof. Yeah.
too often, we assume what we think we know. We assume that we know someone. Actually, we assume that we know ourselves. And I just, after 41 years on this earth, I just recently, about 6 months ago, I'm discovering, because it's an evolution. I'm
Yeah.
discovering who I am. So therefore, any assumption that I'm making isn't the right assumption. So it's so fascinating how sometimes we just jump to something and assume that we, the person that what we're talking to, understand, and assume that we understand what we're seeing, what we're hearing, until we take
Yeah.
a step back to really understand what's going on. Um,
Yes,
it
Will is
it
on fire. Wait, he's
oh
not even up to the fourth agreement because there's
I
more
mean,
than
yeah. And then the last thing is, I will do my best. Now,
that.
my best for me maybe in the lower echelon of your expectation. But at the end of the day, your expectation don't really matter to me. Now, at the end of the day, am I doing my best?
Yeah,
And I
it's
think
beautiful.
that's what
Yeah,
it comes down to. It comes down to just really, as the Bible say, know thyself. Do we really know ourselves? And I think it's really important that we just take a deep look inside of us, even if it's dark. Now, I don't want to go too long, and I'm just going to make this before we close the segment. I've heard a story today about a woman that had lost her keys, a house key, and she was
mhm.
outside looking for the keys. And there's this gentleman that are walking by and say, "Hey, how are you?" He's her neighbor. What you looking for? And she said, "Yeah, I'm looking for my keys." Okay, you're looking for your keys. You lost your key. Where did you lose your keys? She said, "Wait, I lost it inside the house."
Yeah,
And he said, "Okay, then why are you looking outside the house if you lost your keys inside the house?" And she said, "Well, the inside of the house is too dark. Outside there's light." So many times we're looking for things in the wrong place. We don't want to look at inward because it's too dark. But I'm here to tell you that no matter how dark it is, we need to face it. We need to look inside and see exactly what's going on. And don't be afraid, because we're going to be looking for something externally. We would never find it. Just like we
yeah,
attach happiness with external things. This is one of the reasons why I don't. I know I stopped searching for happiness, because my happiness will be determined by external factors, whether it's a good day or bad day. Now, what I'm on the quest for is joy, because regardless of what's going on the outside, it cannot affect my joy. So that's the
can I
yeah,
applaud?
that's
Yeah, let's give it an applause. I love it. Oh my God, Jadot. Actually, I heard that story from Wayne Dyer telling that story about the keys.
really. Oh
Yeah, but
wow.
it's a story as old as time, just like the four agreements. That if we haven't, even if we have read them, even if we know, you know what? It's so funny. The more I know, the more it doesn't matter what I know. And I just love to be reminded, and I love to remember, and I love just to practice and learn different ways of practice from others. And I
Right.
hear very often, I know who I am. You know, you ask someone, do you know this part of yourself? You know, you ask it with a sense of go in depth and just take a moment, or maybe take a couple of moments. And you're like, no, no, I know. Yes, I'm like that. You just answer too quickly. You really just answer too quickly. Even if you know, even if you knew it last year. I mean, I see changes in me every week, every day sometimes. The more I let go of what I think I know about me, the more the light in me, the life in me is surprising me. I'm like, oh my God, didn't even know I can do that. It's like, it's kind of just like in awe with the life, not with
Right.
myself. Okay, we're not talking about like self adoration here. I'm in awe with the life inside of me. That is
No.
is so the less I know and the less I say, Forget about what I know. What do I feel? Just as you're saying, you're focusing on joy. Joy is an energy, it's actually super high energy.
Super
If
high.
you feel it, it means you are it. So does it really matter what you know about? If you ask someone, what do you think about joy? I think joy is amazing. Joy is it doesn't matter what you think about joy. I'm not feeling it. You're not sparkling it, You're not, just like love, right? Either you love or you don't. It doesn't matter what you think about it. It's about energy and emotion and communication.
Right, right. And
So
you
yeah, know thyself.
yeah, you mentioned something as you know, first of all, the more I know, the more I realize how much I don't know.
Yeah,
And that to
it
me,
is.
when I had that epiphany, I'm like, wow. So there was so much to be learned. Second thing is that as as we're reading a book, just like I'm reading, whether you're reading the Bible or whatnot, every stage of your life, every season of your life, you will have a different level of understanding of what you are reading. So, for example,
Mm, hmm.
let's just say if I read the Bible or a passage of scripture last week, last month, last year, and I decided to go back and read it now, well, I'm in a different stage. I'm on a different season. All of a sudden, some words, some things jump out of me like, whoa, whoa, what's going on?
Yes,
I've
yes,
read this 1,000 times. And all of a
yeah.
sudden, it's clearer to you
Oh
because
yeah,
you
and
have a
for the
clear vision.
Bible, yeah,
Because you have a clear vision of who you are. Now you're understanding things because remember, we understand things from our own perspective based on what we have experienced or what we are experiencing. So it's really whatever it is that you have learned, um, you can always see it on a different light. And talking about life, what our lights are the energy in our cells gets brighter. Well, supposed to be brighter and brighter. So as I'm reading the book, I'm shining a light and that word, and as it get brighter, I can see the words a lot clearer. Not only because of the light, because it's clear here. So there's
yeah.
this constant evolution that's going on, and it makes you understand things that you didn't otherwise wouldn't understand as the time that you read it before.
Oh yes, certainly. You gave the example with the Bible, and that's actually the most striking example that I had in my reading experience, because I had a before and after reading the Bible, before with mentally trying to deconstruct it and actually combat religiousness, which I was not agreeing with. And the second time later in my life, I actually felt those words. I call them words encrypted with love. For me, those words are alive and they vibrate in the heart. So I actually felt a deep resonance directly in my heart. Talk about clarities. I didn't even go through here, just straight to the heart. And I felt that truth as if I had been there. Like my cells literally were like, oh, this is the truth. Love them, love thyself as love your thy neighbor as you love thyself. All the parables of Jesus Christ actually struck me directly in the heart. And and that's why it's so important to go back at verifying the information, kind of checking in your body, in your heart, in your body. Get out of the mind. The mind is clear when it's harmonized with the heart. If not, the mind is just conceptually clear, but you haven't fully activated and
Right.
embodied your transformation. And that's why we need to go at it again, just like conversations, conscious conversations. We practice them, and through the confirmations and through the practice of it, the deep listening, the checking in, we get better and better at it. So bring it to the body, bring it to the body. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Speaking about the Bible, I look at the Bible. I mean, I try to make people understand so that way it doesn't become like, first of all, I'm not a religious person. I'm spiritual, and we are more spiritual than we think we are. We're actually spiritual being having a natural experience in this planet. And I always tell people that says, "Oh, I've never read the Bible. I don't believe in the Bible, whatnot." I say, okay, let's take your car for example. People will be familiar with that, or your refrigerator, or whatever it is that you buy. Whenever there is a problem, what do? You are looking at the manual, because the manufacturer know that at some point, if
Mm-hmm.
something arises, you're going to look at the manual. Okay, because the car didn't create itself, so they have to have some overarching engineer or brand behind the construct of that car. So how much more for us as human beings, that whenever we are dealing or going through some type of challenges, no, not problems, some type of challenges, how many times that we go back to the manual to look at exactly how to fix a certain things? And I think it's very important that we don't forget that, and we take that very lightly. And knowing that, oh, let's just hypothetically say that we do not understand
Mm-hmm.
how to apply what's in the manual. What we'll do, what we'll call the manufacturer,
That's
right?
right.
We'll have a
That's right.
conversation with the manufacturer to say, hey, listen, I see this in the manual, I do not understand. So if we have the Bible
Mm.
as our manual and we do not understand, and we don't always understand everything, then let's call the manufacturer. And the
I
beautiful
love
thing about
that.
the manufacturer is that it's open 24/7. The line is never busy, and
Yeah.
he always there to pick up at the first ring. Isn't that
Oh,
beautiful?
I love where you're bringing this, because we cannot speak about conscious communication if we're not speaking about vertical conscious communication. So tell me about, how are you conversing consciously with thy father?
I am finding myself conversating with the father in a very unconventional way.
Tell me about it.
At some point, there are times that I stop talking and I say that, and I speak to me. And we think that praying, I mean, we think praying is always about asking, talking, talking, talking.
Yeah.
When was the last time we took the time to say, okay, now, God, speak to me?
Mm. Every morning.
And what's happening is he speaks through me to the most unconventional way. And how does he do that? Is through adversities, through
Mm.
experiences, through other people. So I say, you know what?
Yes.
Right now, I am not talking. I'm just gonna let you speak, and then I'm listening. And then I'll have this inner voice that say, "You ready to hear what I have to say?" And I was like, "Okay,
You
hold
hear
on.
that,
Okay,
huh?
yeah, you're right, absolutely right. Am I ready to hear what you are saying?" Yeah, yeah. Okay, okay. Can I get back to you on that one? Because
Asking you
we
to
still want
receive.
we want to talk to us, but are we ready to listen? But not just listen, regardless of what we hear, whether we agree, whether we like it or
Yes.
not.
Mhm.
Then you wanted to hear something. There it is. Now
Yeah.
face it, and and apply it. So
Yeah. Oh man, I love that. I love that. Listening, I don't know when I started just positioning myself into prayer. Well, through meditation, but into listening. When I don't know how many years ago that shift happened, that I found that, why am I speaking so much anyway? When am I gonna get the answers? And I think I read something about, yes, prayer is our communication from us to the source, but meditation or contemplation is the space in which we receive and listen to the answers. So I cannot tell you how clear it's gotten, of course, with the practice and with the actually listening and following and being less and less stubborn with the years, with the wisdom growing more. But it's so clear. Like I can't tell you, Will. The other day, I was having a conversation with someone by the river, and the conversation that we were having, the subject and the discover, it was kind of a quest. The person was on a quest to find some answers about something. In the space of 2 to 3 minutes, a lady came with a small dog, cute little dog that just came to me, and she started to speak. I mean, we spoke about the dog a little bit, and she started to speak with the resources, with information about what the person was looking for. Okay, like there and then. But I'm just smiled. I'm at the point where this is exactly how your answers are coming through, and it's just the flow. Or having dreaming of something and seeing it in the same afternoon, like literally. So it's kind of like a circle of conscious conversation between the vertical and the horizontal. I call that vertical, the relationship with the source, and horizontal I call our circular relationships and conversations we have with each other. But this is exactly how you're getting the messages, and many of us still don't understand that this is the person that is like, don't look at the person or don't dismiss it. It's just a messenger. You are hearing the answer or the confirmation to the answer that you already were hearing right here, right now. It can be at Tim Hortons, it can be by the river, where there's like out of the blue, a lady with a dog is coming and giving you like actual references about what you wanted to research, and she just randomly started to speak to you. There's no such thing. There are no actually, I don't believe there are no coincidences. Everything is synchronized communication, synchronized action and communication. It's a very highly intelligent and loving interconnected system. And the more you're aware, the more you're hearing and seeing.
And I would take that even further to say that we create whatever we encounter, whatever message that's coming to us. It's because we have sent it to the universe. And this is the reason why I tell people be very careful with your words. Be very, very mindful. Not, I won't say careful, because when we talk about being careful, then all of a sudden that we're boxing ourselves. Oh, I don't want to
Yeah,
talk. No, I don't want to
yeah.
use the word careful. I want to be
Aware,
mindful,
mindful
be
and aware.
aware of
Be
the
aware.
conversation, because the reason why this conversation come to the lady or whoever needed to hear that is because they have sent it out to the universe. And whatever you send to the universe, it will bring. Because that's the thing about the universe. It's very fair. Whatever you
Oh,
give
very just.
is what you're gonna get. Right? However, and the flip side of that, whatever words that you sow, because it's a
Really,
seed, and we have to be mindful what we say, because a seed never give us one fruit. A
yes.
seed will give us multiple fruits. Inside of each fruit, there are multiple seeds. So, what am I saying? Again, more reason to be mindful of the seed that we sow, because it will come back to us 10 times fold. So, um, I don't believe in coincidence. I believe everything happens at the time. I believe everything happens, we're gonna happen. However, we can't, because of expediency or lack of patience, it comes to us at a time where we weren't ready for it,
Mm.
because we weren't we didn't take the time to understand who we are. So whenever something does happen, we ask a lot of questions. Why? And
Mm.
not just accepting what's happening and taking it with a grain of salt and say, okay, this is what's happening. Because when we look for problems, we see problems, more problems.
Oh yeah, the mind
And
knows
when
only
we see
multiplication, so
and when we
no
see
subtraction.
answers, when we see answers, we keep getting more answers.
Yes.
So it's all
Mhm.
about being mindful of what's going on and using and being conscious of what of our surroundings. What's going on? It's what's going the sound, the vibration, all that. And one of the reason why here's what I find out. Some of the reason why my circle has shrank, not because I stopped talking to people, and not because I completely removed them. I
Mm.
just raised my standard.
Mm.
Just because I raised my standard, so they no longer feel like, okay, I can't be around him anymore. So those people are just gonna remove themselves by themselves because I raised my standards. Because your standard is the opposite of mediocrity. Because if you don't have standards, then you will accept everything and anybody. But once you have standards, you listen. If you're gonna be around me, this is what I'm expecting. So if you cannot meet the standards, you're just gonna remove yourself. So I think that is very important. The conversation and the type of conversation we're having, and be aware of our surroundings. It's once we have the community, the right community. Now the communication will be a lot more conscious because of the people that are around us. Do you
Yes,
agree?
certainly so. Certainly so. In regarding the raising, I've lowered not my standards, but my connection level, which is in the heart. You're talking about mindfulness. I'm gonna talk about heartfulness, wholeheartedness. We each have a role to play in our community. Mine is to find the middle ground and the connection thread with each and every human that is surrounding us, so that in case that they've probably missed a message, or they're a bit lost, or they're a bit afraid, especially in these times, they will always have a hearing ear, but an open heart to be heard and seen, and have the opportunity to take the time to get to know themselves deeper, to take the time to release some fears that might still be in their hearts, since I am very compassionate about the road of, from darkness to light, and
Right.
from controlled mind to liberating soul. So it's super important these days to look at Luigi saying that it's conversation that is saying we have to leave the door open. Yeah, so there is a door open. This being said, I totally understand your point of view in terms that we're not going to stay and in just insist on having conversations with people who are not ready nor willing to elevate, to educate themselves, to open their minds and their hearts to a different level of consciousness. I'm not talking about that. So I'm not gonna like stand by their doors and give them pamphlets like the Jehovah
Mm.
Witness. Like no, but the seeds have been planted with the presence in the community for years. They know where to find me. They know who I am. And then we are all connected. And so if it's not me, if it's other pillars of the community that they will find, that there will be close to them, so that when the time of great winds, of great turbulences, of great challenges, social unrest, darker times, they know where to turn. So they have a chance to activate their inner light, because they actually have a direct connection. So it's
Um,
important for you to stay
yes,
centered.
absolutely. I believe Luigi said we have to leave the door open. I mean, I will take a different approach to that. I would say, to me, no, I won't leave the door open. However, the right person will have the key to open the door themselves. Because if I leave the door open, it seems to me that it is open to everyone. Yes, it is
Mm,
open to everyone with the key. Now, now the question is, what is the key? Well, it depends on their conscious, what they're looking for. Whatever they're looking for, they're gonna find it inside, but they're gonna have the right key. If we take the parables of the 10 virgins, we have to be ready. We have to use wisdom. You have the 10 virgins, they're ready for the bride, and five of them has oil, and the other five didn't have oil. And what happened is the five says, you know what, can we give it some oil? And when we look at this parable, we could like, okay, why didn't they share? Now
mm,
they didn't share, and I believe that the door was closed because the other five did not use wisdom. And now, if we talk about the door being open, I could see for the last hour the door has been open. Now, in the next 5 minutes, the door will be closed. So there is a windows of opportunity. I believe there's a window of opportunity
mm,
for each and every single one of us to take advantage of that opportunity. So I would take a different approach. I said, no, your opportunity, when the door was open, you had the opportunity to come in.
mm,
So now that you have left, either you have the key to come in or you'll be left behind because opportunity is not gonna knock on your door so many times. It may come back again at another season, but for this season, the door is closed. So that's my
mm.
approach.
I understand that our Heavenly Father's heart actually always feasts when the lost son returns. But until
Yes.
then, we're only human and we have doors to our houses and some keys, some leave them unlocked. Luigi's, everybody's right, because it's amazing to have different perspectives and deep conversations and open-minded conversations. And the more the merrier. For me, the more points of view and the more flexibility and just like dancing conversation, the better, because we're interested in touching different hearts and minds. And this is probably something that many of us have thought, and maybe in some seasons of our lives we stay with doors open, and some people just came in and barged and were very nice in our houses. So then we decided to, okay, well, we're just going to lock it, and just the ones who have the keys will enter. And it's nor good nor bad. It's really, it's important to talk about this because boundaries are important, and there is a season for everything. I do believe that too. You're right.
Yes.
Wow, it's 9 already. Can you believe it?
And this is what
I don't know
happened.
when.
It goes by so fast. I can't believe it. I mean, we didn't even scratch the
Yeah,
surface.
did we
Could you
talk about?
imagine? I mean, wow, wow, wow. This has been a great segment. I think
Yeah,
it is long overdue, and
yeah,
I'm glad that we're having this opportunity. And I actually look forward to people with different perspective because it gives me an opportunity to learn more, to learn from a different angle. Louis, you
yeah.
said that there's also the perspective of those person who think that they're not ready and they lack confidence.
Mm,
Absolutely beautifully said. Absolutely, I agree. As I was saying, different perspective. Actually, I welcome that. I welcome that because it gives me an opportunity to learn from someone else's different point of view, different perspective. I should welcome that more than I do with someone that agree with me. As a matter of fact, I like when our conversation kind of
yeah,
everybody having their own different twist.
yeah. I
Well,
know you
definitely
like
looking
that.
forward to the
Yeah,
next one. Absolutely,
that's good.
positively. I think it's just one episode, one session amongst many, many, many more to come. And I can't wait to see what the next topic is gonna be, but I'm sure it's gonna be as authentic, as consciously aware, and I show people. I hope people take away whatever they can take away from this. And
Yeah.
we love for them to share their comments, their thoughts, their opinion about everything that we share. And if they'd like for us to talk about something else next time, then I guess, as your host, I guess you will welcome whatever people would like for us to talk about.
Yeah, we're gonna let ourselves be inspired both vertically and horizontally. So DM us or write in the comments if you have any
Yes,
upcoming
yes,
subjects. We're
yes.
definitely gonna follow that stream. And if people want to get in contact with us, how can they do it? Well,
Well, me, they can contact me on Instagram at Coach Will, LinkedIn, Coach Will, on
Coach
Facebook.
Will on and one. I'm gonna write it in the
Yes,
comments.
at Coach
Insta.
underscore Will. That's for Instagram. LinkedIn
Perfect.
is Coach Will, and they can contact me also on my Facebook page, W Beyond Coaching. Um, by the way, I just want to give a shout out to. I'm in the process. I have started my memoir, a book that I am working on. It's gonna be a long. It's gonna be a
Can't
year
wait.
long process, and I'm looking forward to it. And we'll be talking more about it in the coming weeks and months to come. And I am so excited um, to start this journey. And the reason why I say that is because I need accountability. They say that when you have a goal,
Yeah.
there's 36% chance of you achieving that goal. And when you write it down with specific dates, you've got 90% chance of achieving it. Now, when you say it out loud with accountability, you've got a 96% chance of achieving it. So this is what I'm putting out there, being vulnerable. So that way, a year from now, people can ask me, "Did you not tell us that you were working on a book?" So I'm putting myself out there. Please hold me accountable.
Oh man.
I'm
Oh,
looking
I
forward to
will.
this
Well,
book.
you're talking to a coach. You're kidding me?
So,
I will hold you
so I
accountable and
am
follow
looking
up.
forward to it. And then we're gonna be talking
Yeah.
more. And then this right we having this conversation, it will be part of the book, some form, ship, or other. So definitely the reason why I'm taking a year to do this book is because I want that to be part of the process of my evolution. So, and
That's
there's
beautiful.
many more projects coming. So definitely looking
I
forward to
can't
them.
wait. I can't wait.
Yes.
So we're gonna have another lovely conversation soon. As soon as we set on the subject, we're not gonna let too much time pass and come back into the conversation. I really enjoyed this time. Thank you so much. And hello to everyone. Have a great weekend. Super, super thrilled to have read you. And let's keep rolling these conscious communications into our communities.
Yes,
Let's keep that
absolutely.
practice rolling.
And I am so honored, and it's a privilege for me to be amongst conscious people like yourself. And thanks for the invite. It means the world to me, and I am so looking forward to it. And I appreciate it more than you can imagine. So thank you to
Oh, thank
you.
you
Thanks
so
to
much.
Luigi.
Luigi, shout out for your studios,
Yes,
for
yes. I mean,
everything.
this
You're
man, this
awesome.
man makes magic. This man is a genius.
Genie.
He's
Yeah,
a
he is.
genius, I'm telling you. So, Luigi, you got a special place in my heart, my brother.
Thank you so much. Yeah,
Yes.
have a nice day, everyone. Thank you so much. I'll see you guys soon. We'll see you very, very soon.
All right.
Have
You
a
take
great
care.
evening.
Have a good night,
Bye,
everyone.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye.